Okay, welcome everybody to the November 20th Ortelius architecture meeting. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So, Jing, I did look for some Golang code for
Hmm.
you to kind of pick up and start working on. Nothing right yet, but I think there's
Okay,
something coming down the road and I'll let you know
sure.
once I get some stuff organized.
Hmm.
What I'm running into is if I go to this guy. Um, so when I originally started this project, it was a back end, which is all um, the fiber REST APIs and the GraphQL and stuff like that. And then also embedded in it is a command line, and I need to split those out into two separate repos and stuff. So I'll do that, and then there'll be some work that we need to do on that code base. So you'll be more than likely starting with something that's already in place instead of writing something from scratch.
Sure. That's fine.
So I
Yeah, I don't
will,
mind do any up front end as well if you have anything though.
yep. So the front end is in the other repo. So here's the front end code. Um, So it's all React, and now I'm getting the hang of the React code and stuff like that. It's actually coming together pretty well. So we use Next.js and Tailwind. Tailwind does a lot of the padding and spacing and stuff like that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like CSS already defined that
Hmm.
we just reuse with Tailwind to make things look good. So that was one of the things that helped clean things up
Yeah.
uh, at that level.
Yeah. If you need anything, you let me know though. I don't mind to have just more exposure on different type of coding stuff.
Yep. Because there will be, let me show you where, especially on the front end, since that is still has a lot of things that need to be done. So I'm in the process of pushing this up to Kubernetes today on our cloud, so we'll be able to run it, and you guys will be able to see the data and stuff like that. So since Monday, I've added in, if you click on that, you actually get into the detail view of things. So I put the summary bar up there. You can download the SBOM, the endpoints that this release has been synced to, all the CVEs in it, and the packages that need to be fixed. And then I added in some of our build details and commit details from GitHub, and then the OpenSF scorecard.
This code looks
Um,
really neat though. Well done,
Yeah.
Steve.
yeah, so it's interesting because like before in our tables we would use datatables.net was the table. And this is basically a table created by the Tailwind and the next JS. So it's a lot easier to style
Hmm.
at that level. And I haven't bothered adding in any sort functionalities and stuff like that because we have the ability to do that over here.
Okay.
So you can do the filtering and stuff um, at that level. So I felt that didn't want to overly complicate it with adding sort buttons and stuff like that at that level. And then we go back to here. If we do like data bind, data bind is one of the ones that has a lot of issues with it. Um, so it has critical and high vulnerabilities in it. So that's one of the interesting ones. We did the package search, and then also if you want to do particular CVE, and just see where that CVE is. Oh, that query is not working. It kind of is working. So what's happening is the dash. Because there's a dash in the CVI I pasted in, it's picking up the clean ones when it shouldn't. So I have to make that change. But it pulls up the two versions that are having that issue. Um, so this is kind of like the detail for a release. Now, if we go to like an endpoint, if you click on the cluster detail, it's still the old placeholder stuff that I had in place. So that this would be one area that we need to dive into. Um, a new details page. Same with mitigations. Well, mitigations you really don't dive into the details. It's more of taking the action, what you want to do with how to resolve that. Um, and then vulnerabilities is more of the diving into it. So this one um, is where we'd want to do another details page. So we basically have two details pages that need to be implemented, the endpoints and the vulnerabilities. So that's kind of where we're at. And when you do the details page, you can, what I'll do is, let me show you.
The UI now looks really good now, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering the adoption because I remember the first time when I was trying to adopt it on my own environment, it took me probably around more than 1 month on and off trying to get it working. So,
yeah, on the adoption side, we will use your Watchtower
mhm.
repo to go ahead and start watching repositories for releases. So let me see, I think it's running now. Yeah, it ran yesterday, it looks like successfully. So this check repository job that you wrote uh, is something that we'll use. And the way this works is, if I remember correctly, there is a YAML file for each repo that we want to go ahead and watch.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll be able to say we want to watch the Jenkins one. We want to watch Tecton. We want to watch Kubernetes itself for those releases to come out. And that scheduled action will then go out as like you did. Let me find the code. It goes out and gives us a YAML file that we need to go. So in the last couple runs, there's been no releases. So the last release was a Jenkins 538 and a Tecton. I think that's just I don't know if that's real or not. I know Jenkins is. But anyways, we would be able to go ahead and allow people to go ahead and add their own YAMLs in as part
Mhm.
of a pull request to go ahead and start monitoring stuff. And we could do things for our on our own. Like if we want to add in like since we're using like Fiber and Fast API, we can add those repos in and start watching them and kind of build up a list of releases that we want to keep an eye on to start with. So the onboarding, like you said, the adoptions can be very easy
Okay.
from the release perspective. On the deployment side, when we go back to the endpoints, this is where we actually have to hook into um, uh, their runtime environment. So in that case, we have there's a Terraform that is used to go ahead and allow us to go ahead and watch the logs of the Kubernetes deployments and gather the containers being deployed and stuff like that at that level. So that one's a little more of uh, an implementation that has to be done for us to capture that. Um, but I think it should be pretty easy since we've gone the Terraform route and making things set up that way. So they could basically plug and play at that level, and they get to. There's no like security access that we need to Kubernetes. We just need to be able to read the log files at that level. On that front, we will need I have the GKE one written, but we will need an AWS Lambda written. And I haven't published that repo yet. That's on my to-do list.
Mm, but still, as you're saying, we we would not need any sort of permissions. Is
Correct.
that so? Because we would need a permission to their cloud platform, right?
You'll need a permissions. Let me see if I can find that repo real quick. Uh, Come on, select folder. So make this a little bigger. So if you look at the Terraform, um, it does set up some IAM so it does two things. This does a deployment of the cloud function, which is the same a Lambda in
Mm-hmm.
the AWS world. So it deploys the Lambda, and then it also does the bindings to be able to get the logs. Um, so let me see. Thought it was in here.
So this is just the app running in the Lambda then.
Yeah, and what it does is it this Python code will go ahead and read uh the log files coming out of Kubernetes. So
Mhm.
by default, GKE and EKS have auditing turned on, so all the deployments get sent to a basically a log file, a cloud log file. And then we just go ahead and read that cloud log file looking for a specific pattern for us to monitor. So let's see if it's in here.
Uh,
Sorry, but for our Lambda app to read other Kubernetes log or other Lambda log, do we need their access?
Yes, we will need access to those logs on a read basis. So that is the one security piece that we will need is read access to the logs. So this is like the log name in Kubernetes. I mean in GKE. So it's the project ID, the logs, cloud audit, Google APIs is the basically the log that we have to have read access to. Um, and once we do that, we do this filtering, and that filtering allows us to go ahead and um, grab information about the container, the image, that type of thing, and the cluster name. So what ends up happening is we just go ahead and create a new JSON that we kick out. So what the process is, you basically you can curl the uh, cloud function or the Lambda. And that Lambda, so you have two sets of security. One on who can curl and connect to the cloud function. And then that cloud function has to have access to the log. So that's where it comes into play. And what will happen is, let's see if there's a, so here's like the curl command. I'm going to go curl my cloud function um, with my token, and it fetches based on the last timestamp. Um, the all the deployments that have happened, and that gives us a JSON result that we can then use to go ahead and uh, create the entries inside of Ortelius. So it's like a two-step process.
Okay, so what I understood is we are creating a sort of Lambda function, serverless function, which is going to read data from, not data, read the, I think, logging activities for a particular Kubernetes cluster.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay. Is it not possible without creating this Lambda function? We,
Um,
Mhm.
you, well, uh, I'd have to check. I don't, well, you can, you could do it could be possible for, to go directly, um, without the Lambda. I'd have to look into that. Utkarsh, it's a good idea to see if we can skip one step in that process.
Yeah, if we like during the onboarding process, if we know the application name or the cluster name, then it will become more simpler in that case.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But if
let me
we have to
see.
ensure. Mhm.
Yeah, let me see what we can do on that front. Because I'd have to look at the because you end up like you said, we still end up with a token
Yeah.
that is needed to do the curl. So we already have to authenticate and get our token. So we can go ahead and uh, get that token, and that token would have access, direct access to the log files instead of going from, like you said, from the through the Lambda to get there. Let me check on that. That's a good idea to see if we can streamline that and make it simpler.
What this cloud tool does is they, whenever they onboard, right, they try to authenticate, and in the starting itself, they try to specify what all roles they would need. So,
Right. That would be, and that's part of the setup of that the Terraform would do. So
okay.
the Terraform, we just changed the Terraform to enable access for that app to query the cloud function directly. I mean, the logs directly instead of going through the cloud function.
Okay. Okay.
How protected are those logs in general?
Um, Not very protected. They're audit logs.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, so like if
But does somebody know where those audit logs are to be able to point to it on a on a install?
yeah, they're you based on the cloud provider, they have a well-known name.
Yeah. We would still need like a cluster name, um,
Yeah.
application name for that.
Oh, you can even skip the cluster name because it's going to capture um so here's the log explorer and it's capturing all clusters. So it will look at all the clusters and everything that's happening in the cluster. So this is like the default audit log that's being kicked out. Everything that's happening at like there's some internal Kubernetes stuff that was happening um, uh, that happened. There's like the schedulers and the load the pod schedulers and things like that all get shoved into this output, and we look for specific ones which are uh, basically it is we're looking for a specific payload. So if I throw this in here.
Well, I think that like my question is we have to make this as simple as possible. If there's anything that looks like it's going to be difficult, we have to come up with an easier way.
Yeah, this is the simplest way I found so far. I did try installing an event bot that would kick out events to like Discord or to Slack, and then we'd go and read the Slack channel for the deployments. And I couldn't really get the thing to work correctly. And the amount of work and the amount of privileges that you had to give that little bot that you added
Yeah,
to the cluster was more complicated than looking at the generic logs.
right. I can see that.
So, and the nice thing is going this route, even if they deploy with uh like Flux or Argo or Helm, it doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, we get to look at like in this case, there is a pod that was created and there was a pod that was patched. And in that, and it doesn't matter the cluster because I didn't filter on a specific cluster. Um, so if they're running 20 clusters in this underneath this GKE project, we'd get all that information automatically. And this is where the payload has what you really want. So it's in the response.
Yeah, this is quite extensive as compared to AWS.
Yeah, and I have to look at the AWS side.
And is that why you were talking to the having a Lambda function, Steve, for AWS?
It was just so if you do the Lambda function, or in the Google world, it's called a cloud function. Those you can hit with curl as soon as you authenticate, so you don't have to have a direct connection to Google per se. You can go through a load balancer and stuff like that to get that data. So it's a little more open, put it that way, to get to the data by jumping through the Lambda. But because we're going to need, each one of the functions is going to be specific to the cloud provider to get the log information, because like Utkarsh said, it'll come out in different formats. Um, that the data that we'll get, it will be slightly different. That we'll have to have a Google one. We have to have AWS. We have to have Azure. We'll have to have a Rancher one, which is fine. They're
Which is
all going to be
fine. Yeah,
very
that may be
similar.
fine. Yeah, it may be okay to do that. So other than this discussion, what is everybody feeling about the front end?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Good.
really neat though. Looks really nice.
Great.
And like I said, on Monday, we will have one more tab up here, which will be the landing page. And what I can see in the landing page after playing with the data is time graphs showing, like every day or every week the number of CVEs going up or down, number of deployments, that type of thing. So we actually have some really good data to start doing those charts with at on a landing page, because you can really start driving through and see the trends, like time to remediation, that we can start calculating, because we'll be at the project release. I haven't implemented it yet, but we'll be able to have versions of this release. So there'll be, and it hasn't been added yet because I haven't consolidated that in the database. But this would be showing Ortelius general with the latest version, and then another summary here saying 25 releases available. And because we'll have that release versioning, we can do trends on how long it takes for a release to be created, and then also we'll be able to show how long it takes for a release to get out to a cluster, out to a runtime environment. So that will give us all that mean timer to remediation statistics and stuff like that we'll be able to have a landing page for.
Okay, and right now this is still running locally. You're going to try to get this out so we can start pounding on it and playing on it.
That's what I'm working on now.
Okay. Well, you've gone really fast on this, Steve. I'm very impressed.
Well, you haven't seen it. I don't know if you joined when I went into the details page.
I was just getting there, so I'm looking forward to it. That's why I want to be able to play on it and see what's going on.
And like I said earlier, I've done all this with AI. So if we go back over, if you look at one of my chats,
It should be different URL for Cloud Code.
yeah, I'm just trying to bring up one of my past chats so you can kind of see what I've done. Like so the problem I was having was, if we go back, this endpoint summary didn't exist, and I wanted it to be added. So I went out to Claude and I said on a project, and what I did was I hooked up the front end to GitHub, and I said, told it to go ahead and add the missing synced endpoints to the right-hand side of the OpenSSF score, and it went through and generated the actual code for me to add that in. So it was very, this is how I've been doing 99% of the code, or 95%. There's sometimes it messes up. I have to go in and change things manually. So it may not load the context because it's so old. There it is. So it actually gave me the full file that needed the changes. And then I noticed that this synced endpoint, and when you go into this page where it said synced endpoint, we're not matching. And I then went and added, make sure that the two are being calculated identical with that. And it went through and changed a couple things. This one, it actually had to change some of the GraphQL statements. So we got 2 files or 3 files. So we got a types, a GraphQL, and then the front end page at that level. And I just go and cut and paste them. I haven't tried the cloud code yet. I keep on running out of tokens. I usually blow up all my tokens by like noon. So 2 o'clock, and then I have to wait for it to reset. But it definitely, for the $20, it does a lot of the work. I also use Gemini. If I run out of tokens, I'll go over to Gemini then and do work over there. Gemini is actually pretty good, believe it or not. I was surprised.
Yeah, they recently launched Gemini 3, which is also like a good one.
Yeah. So let's see here. Oh, I needed it to go ahead and it the one of the boxes, this top box was just too big, and it was taking up like it was like a full screen. So what I had to do was I'd said I needed to be such and such size, about 400 pixels, and it said, "Oh, the closest Tailwind class is going to be this class here that I'm going to apply to it." And it went off and it can either give you the snippet or you can tell it give you the whole file um, to make the changes. On the complex stuff, I'll tell it to give me the whole file, and I'll keep on doing that. I think that's why I burn through a lot of tokens, is I'm telling it to give me the complete file all the time. But it's a lot easier to cut and paste the full file instead of trying to find specific lines in the code base. And also when it generates a full file and you tell it to do the next thing, it kind of works from that last file
Mhm.
instead of it trying to incrementally apply all the changes again from scratch. So
Mhm.
I found I get a better result when I tell it to give me the full file. This is just such an easy change. I went with the small cut and paste. So like one of the things I did was I told it to go and go out on one of my, it could have been on ChatGPT or something. I told it to go and go find an open source icon from Font Awesome or somewhere, and add it to the left of all the headers. And it went off and did it. It took me a couple times to get the right icons, but I actually ended up switching from Font Awesome to Material UI icons, because they work well with React as well. So getting, just dialing up the page a little bit, make it look a little bit better. Really, I think makes it look like a more complete project. Adding the little bomb icon in, the fire icon, those type of things. I think just help it dress it up a little bit.
Yeah, and if anybody really is into designing UIs and they want to make some recommendations on colors and stuff, please let us know.
Yeah, and also navigation wise, I did try doing like collapsible sections and stuff like that, and it just seemed too hard for the four or five piece sections that we have on the page to do a collapsible thing. It just seemed like overkill. I'm trying to approach this as the simpler, the better. The less
Yeah,
confusing, the better.
fewer mouse clicks, fewer mouse clicks, fewer mouse clicks.
Yeah,
Our old version had a lot of mouse clicks.
yeah,
Guys,
exactly.
I have to jump. I have another call, but it's looking great, Steve. Thanks all.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just one question regarding so previously our application was sort of SaaS application, right? Are we
Hmm.
still going to follow the same SaaS model?
It will be packaged up as a Helm chart again. There won't be as many services. So right now we'll probably have, I think, the front end, the back end, and Arango. So it'll be three services, three pods basically, or two pods and one stateful set for the Arango. The Arango runs as a stateful set. So that'll be bundled into a Helm chart that will be able to deploy to any cloud or locally at that level. So that means that we'll run it as a SaaS as well as an on-prem install.
No, nice, nice.
Now, the one thing I'll need to know from um, your side, Utkarsh, when you get further into it, if if the GraphQL APIs will be enough to get the information that you need to do like the auto remediation for the package dependencies, because we do bring back a fixed in version For that package. We know the fixed in version now is, here's the broken version, here's where it was fixed. So we have that information kind of available through um, the GraphQL. But if you need direct access to the Rango database, let me know and we can figure out how we want to manage that. I was hoping we can stick with the GraphQL or REST API path.
Yeah, I think GraphQL should be sufficient.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because that'll make it easy. The number of GraphQL statements that we have is going to be under a dozen, so it's not going to be since we've this version versus our old version, we've eliminated a lot of stuff, at least at this point, like environments, components, applications, all that is kind of been reworked, so it's much simpler, the data model. So the database is much cleaner, put it that way.
Nice, nice.
And one of the things I keep on doing is I keep on I'll make some database changes and then I'll have usually Claude go through and critique the queries to make sure that they are efficient and they're not doing like a full table scan type of thing.
Nice, nice. Good stuff.
So that's where we're kind of at. I will, like I said, I have a little bit of work to do to get it deployed today, and then I'll start working on splitting out some of that stuff for you, Jing. And I may have a slight change for the Watchtower um, uh, XML file. I mean the YAML file that gets produced. There's some what I found was Jenkins does something weird. Jenkins tags the release with like without following a semantic schema, semantic versioning schema. They put a tag on, but then the release is a different does follow the semantic versioning schema. So we need both and not just the one. So we can do our versioning tree correctly. So it's a weird little quirk I found on the Jenkins side. But I'll create an issue for you and let you know what needs to be changed once I get closer to that part.
Yep, sounds good.
So
D-
any other
yeah,
questions or comments?
one more question, sorry.
Yeah,
See, I was just thinking, will this solution be more like sync?
by more like what Snick?
Snake, yeah, sorry.
Um, it will it there are some similarities, but what we're focused on, well, Snick focuses on at the repo level, the source code repo level. They do a lot of work for that repository, looking at your code, making not only vulnerability checks but best book coding practices. So it is like a true SCA tool, looking at your code base, where we're looking at releases and where that release was deployed to give you the information saying that this cluster is now running a critical vulnerability that needs to be addressed. So
Okay,
it's post deployment where Sneak has nothing to do with deployments at all.
okay. Yeah, I think that's why our journey is a little bit different from theirs.
Yeah, and the amount of noise um, that gets kicked out by all the tools on the repo side, it's just so I turn it off now. I turn off all the renovate, I turn off all the dependabot, I turn off all the sneak alerts and stuff like that because it's just it just going through and giving me everything. I know there's ways to configure it, but out of the box, you're getting all this extra noise. And it's even if you onboard a GitHub org versus a repo, we're getting reports on some of your original code that you wrote 4 or 5 years ago that hasn't been maintained. Some Python code for testing is still being reported on by Sneak, and that gets into the mix as well. So there's a lot of it's similar, but it's different. Put it that way.
Yeah, in terms of user journey, what I've seen, the good part is we don't have to deploy anything. So I was thinking, will there be any way, like just for a demo, or if somebody wants to try out this for limited period of time, so we can like provision these services on our cloud platform for a
Yeah,
time being.
yeah. So, and that was one of the reasons for the Lambda on that side was they can open up the Lambda on their side and whitelist our IP
Mhm.
to go and gather their cloud data from the deployment side. So that's one of the advantages of using the Lambda is you don't have to have direct access to an audit log. You have that middleman at that level. And if that gets exposed publicly, then we can hook in not only their repos, their releases, but also their deployments.
Mhm. Also, since we are creating a PaaS solution, so should we like provision the resources in their cloud platform, or like
That would be the other route would be to uh, provide a Terraform that would go ahead and provision everything for them to try out.
Okay, okay.
Basically deploy the Helm charts and enable the access to the audit logs. Those are the two things that we need for somebody to try it internally.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm going to set up the local environment over the weekends and see how it goes.
Yep, I will send a message out on Discord when I have the Helm charts out there and where they're at so you can find them.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'll have time to test it against what do you run locally? Do you run like a Rancher or K3S or Kind?
I have this um, Kubernetes installed, so no issues. I
Okay.
run directly everything. Try to
All right.
just
The reason why I ask is the load balancers are slightly different based on the cloud provider.
okay, okay.
So right now what I'm working on today is to use the native Google load balancer to the front end to the cluster IP to the that will route the traffic to the right pods on the backside. So I'm not putting like an Nginx
Reverse proxy.
in front of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, yep.
So, and I think that will work with like Kind and Rancher and it should work with AWS as well. There may be some of the syntax, like AWS for the load balancers, you need like the ARN and some of the subnet stuff that it's going to live in that has to be defined. So that will be in the long term, that'll be an if statement in the Helm chart. Say if I'm deploying to AWS, go and add this extra annotation
Mm.
versus GKE. I won't be able to get that done today, but I'll get as far as I can.
No hurry. Anyways, I'm going to install these repositories locally for now.
Yeah, And you can run it all local without having to deal with any Kubernetes. It just run the three containers.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
Steve,
Yep.
can we create a sandbox in the website or somewhere, like the Ortelius team, and we will also give demo, we can use that.
Yes, that's what we're going to stand up today. That's what I'm working on.
Okay.
So you'll be able to access live data.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks.
The one thing we may want to do, Utkarsh, is like a Docker compose.
okay. Okay.
Just to bring up those three containers.
Yeah, I can do that.
Something along those, that would make it easy for just to run things locally without having to deal with Kubernetes.
Yep.
That's a nice thing with slimming everything back to just collapsing it back and cleaning up the code base. We don't have as many microservices that we have to run and plumb together.
Okay.
So I will put out on Discord when things are ready to go, and where the sandboxes are meant for you to access it.
Okay, cool.
And the goal is to start using it against itself and against the current version that we have out there. So I'll be able to gather both of those data from both of those pieces. And then next week I'll add in the Jenkins piece to go start grabbing Jenkins releases.
Okay. Yeah, that will solve a lot of problem, because I don't know if you have seen a few of the PRs that might be coming, last week or last to last week. Sometimes they are upgrading the dependency, sometimes they are downgrading their dependencies.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that problem with with the Ortelius website. I upgraded Hugo to the latest version, and it looked like it compiled correctly, but then you went to certain pages and they're blank. So I had to downgrade our Hugo version back to fix that. So all the pages were rendering correctly. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's one of those you gotta, give it a go and see what happens. Anything else?
Nope.
Alrighty, thanks everybody. Have a good weekend and keep an eye out on Discord.
Yep, sure. Thanks everyone.
Yep,
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
cheers.
Yes.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.